Good morning, everyone, and welcome to New York Metro Weather's second severe weather briefing on Hurricane Irene, which is approaching the area rather rapidly at this point. It's 11 a.m. advisory actually has weakened the storm now down to 105 miles an hour, which is some good news for the area as the movement is north at 14 miles an hour. The storm has not totally picked up forward speed yet as it is supposed to and forecast to, but it is still churning off the southeast coast of the United States, and right now is having some trouble with its organization. We take a look at the active watches and warnings, and you can see there are hurricane warnings essentially from Charleston, South Carolina, all the way up until Sandy Hook, New Jersey, and then over the New York City area, and all the way just to the south shore of southern New England. There are hurricane watches. These are tropical storm watches that extend inland, but all the New York City metro in a hurricane watch, farther south down towards the Philadelphia area and the Jersey Shore, all the way down Ocean City, Maryland, through the Delaware and Maryland, Virginia beaches. Those are hurricane warnings. We take a look at the presentation of Irene right now, and if you were to look at the visible satellite, it's a pretty ominous looking storm. The storm looks has an impressive look to it. There's good outflow both on the northwest and southwest side, and the storm looks very impressive when you're looking at it on visible satellite. But the tail is told on the water vapor satellite, and there's a ton of dry air currently involved in the storm. The outflow channels are struggling here. You can see the dry air entrainment, and the middle, the center of the circulation, where the best convection usually is near the eye, the storm is currently really struggling, and it may be a factor of bad timing with an eye wall replacement cycle and a ton of dry air surrounding the system. But luckily for us, we have microwave images where we can look through the storm and see where the convection is and how it's organized. And this is a completely open southwest eye wall, so there is no eye wall right now. The recon flight that went in a little bit ago did report that the eye wall has completely collapsed. So if Irene is going to strengthen, it's going to need to build a new eye wall in this area. But the southwest side of the system is being eaten alive right now. So that accounts for the weakening and the slight rise in pressure. And you can also see the last few recon passes, it was down to 943, and you can see the ticks northward and a little bit increase in forward speed, maybe even a little tick northwest over the past hour. But you can see the pressure has really risen from 943. It's up to 949 now on the last pass. Regardless of the slight amount of weakening that has occurred and the storm struggling to maintain its major hurricane intensity, the model guidance is still bringing the storm directly up the coast in a dangerous fashion. Here's the 12Z NAM, and you can see a very strong area of low pressure off the New Jersey coast with copious amounts of rainfall. And it's important to remember that even a nor'easter of this strength would be incredibly impressive. The fact that it has tropical origins makes it even more difficult to deal with. And here's the loop of the storm system currently down off the southeast coast. You can see it scrapes the Outer Banks and then begins its crawl up the coast with tremendous amounts of rain. It's important also to note that there is a jet streak in the upper level atmosphere that could really enhance the amount of rainfall, coincidentally directly over our region, and could actually support some storm strengthening, which some of the models had last night. On the evening models, they actually had the storm strengthening off the New Jersey coast, which is something else that we need to discuss, which would be the winds. Here's another look at the 12Z NAM, and you can watch the center of the circulation right here in this panel, and you can see the wind gusts in knots as the storm makes its crawl up the New Jersey coast. Those are significant near hurricane force sustained winds on the New Jersey coast and then approaching Long Island. And notice how even after the storm passes, we have northwest winds of near 40 knots over the New Jersey shore. So that's that's a reverse storm surge in a sense. And you can see the low pressure here on the bottom right of your screen near 970, just off the New Jersey coast, just east of Atlantic City, and still very strong winds in the upper levels, over 70 knots at 900 millibar. That's actually just off the deck. So any convection hello, that's a lot of convection right there, could mix down those severe winds. The convection, essentially, what we mean by that, we had someone ask a question yesterday, what does that mean? The winds that are just off the deck, meaning essentially just above our heads, not, actually just above our heads, but in an atmospheric sense, just above our heads. When you have thunderstorms or heavy rain, they kind of open the trap door, and they allow those winds to mix down to the lower levels, or where we live. So that's how you can get those severe hurricane force gusts, or in a thunderstorm, a burst of severe wind, or damaging winds and stuff like that. That's how that works, and so that's why we're so worried about the atmospheric conditions that we're dealing with. One model that needs to be discussed is last night's 0Z European model run, which was a little further to the west of all the guidance, but paints a very nasty picture as far as what, the winds, the wind direction, and how it could affect the area. These are 74 knot winds coming in off the southeast into New York Harbor to areas just to the southeast of Staten Island. That's Rockaway, Brooklyn, Sandy Hook. These would be very impressive winds, and essentially could cause a tremendous amount of flooding, a tremendous storm surge, and a good amount of damage. And also here you can see the southwest winds, or near Forked River, and Tom's River, and the center of circulation just north of Brick near Asbury Park. So this storm means business, and when you have a center of circulation like this, it can be very, very intense, and it can be very impressive to see these type of winds howling in off the water. The waves would be tremendous, the amount of rain is going to be tremendous, and the flooding could be a real issue in areas that receive the tremendous amounts of rainfall that are being forecast by the forecast models. So all in all, it's important, and we've gone over this the past few days, it's important at this point really to know your storm surge maps. If you live in a storm surge area, please plan ahead right now and make plans to get out, because you don't want to risk any significant damage to your home, or you don't want to be there for it either. So know your coastal evacuation routes as well if you live along the coast, and this applies for everyone really. You should know your evacuation and your storm surge maps. You may live in a storm surge area, you might not even know it. So head to New Jersey State website, the New York State website, and the Connecticut State website. All those states have declared a state of emergency, so that should be standard procedure. You head to your state website and you look at the state of emergency, the evacuation maps, and in this case, because the state of emergency is for a hurricane, you look at the storm surge and the hurricane emergency plans. Also, prepare a go bag. Have your windows. If the winds start to pick up, stay away from the windows. I'm not saying board up your windows, but it's just a common sense type deal. Tie down or bring in loose objects from outside. Be careful, because these copious amounts of rain and these wind gusts, we might not have sustained hurricane force winds, but hurricane force wind gusts with 8 inches of rain on an already moist ground can knock over a tree very fast. So be prepared for things like that. One more time, I want to go over the evacuations. Friendly shout out for our friends down in Ocean City, Maryland. There's a mandatory evacuation there by 5 p.m. tonight. Long Beach Island has a mandatory evacuation beginning today. Ocean and Atlantic counties, that's Cape May and Atlantic counties. I said the wrong thing again last night too. So Cape May and Atlantic counties along the coast, mandatory evacuations. New York City, Zone A evacuations and hospital evacuations. Begin to anticipate those type of evacuations. Visit the NewYorkCity.gov website for details on where you live. If you live in the Zone A area, check and see, continually check to see if they have issued a mandatory evacuation for those areas at this time. And if you live along the coast, if you live in South Brooklyn, Rockaway, or the South Shore of Long Island, even the North Shore, Staten Island, keep an eye on your area, your evacuation plans and routes, and know if New York City issues a mandatory evacuation, and know where you're going to be going. So to sum it up, we'll take one more look. Here's Hurricane Irene. It's 105 mile an hour sustained winds. The movement is north at 14 miles an hour. An interesting tidbit that was thrown at me earlier. Hurricane Gloria was roughly the same size in the same place, but was a Category 1 at this time and caused significant damage in the area. So because the storm is weakening, do not take it lightly. Prepare now. Have everything ready by Saturday, because the storm is likely to begin affecting our area by later in the day on Saturday. Make sure to stay with us on Facebook and Twitter, and we will continue to keep you updated on Hurricane Irene as she turns up the East Coast. We'll talk to you guys soon.